This is my very first airbrush, and I'm hoping it's about to make my life easier, especially when I'm coating glass with tempera paint for laser engraving with my trusty Diode laser, the xTool S140 watt. Now, if you've been following along, you know I've tested just about every DIY coating method YouTube recommends. Moly spray, permanent markers, chalk paint, acrylic, tempera, you name it. I still haven't tried mustard, but no, it won't happen. In all those tests, tempera actually came out on top. Then I put it head to head against a professional marking spray, and while the tempera did held its ground, the pro spray came out on top. But I don't think that was the tempera's fault. I think it was mine, or rather the way I applied it. When I used brushes, both small and foam, the surface ended up with visible streaks. Even when the top coat looked flat, the bottom layer still had texture. And when you're engraving glass, even a slight unevenness can make a big difference in how the light hits and scatters inside the glass. So today I'm putting this airbrush to the test. Will it give me a smoother, more consistent coating? And will that lead to a better engraving? That's what we're about to find out. But first, don't forget to subscribe, especially if you visited before.
Glass engraving or marking needs a coating. That's just the reality. And while professional coatings do an excellent job, they're not cheap and not always easy to find. Tempera, on the other hand, is cheap, safe, and easy to buy just about anywhere. Grocery stores, craft shops, you name it. It has been surprisingly reliable as a marking coat for glass. The problem is applying it evenly. By the way, have you tried marking glass with your Diode laser without sprays or at least a DIY coating? I did. Guess what happened? Not much. I just burned through the plywood that I used under the glass as a base. That was it. I shared some of my experiences on Facebook and people started to share their favorite methods. Some people get great results with just foam brushes, others use ready-to-spray bottles, while others share they just dip their glass straight into a pool of paint. Now, a few people mentioned they used an airbrush. They said nothing beats the smooth, streak-free coat it produces. That got my attention. Since I already have a compressor, I figured it's time to add an airbrush to my arsenal. I want to try it on glass and also for prepping canvases for engraving. I have been thinking about this for a while now. You know, spray cans do add up in cost, and when you buy paint in liquid form, you get more options in colors, brands, and finish. Plus, it's cheaper in the long run. That's what I keep telling myself. Tempera and acrylic both can be thin with water, so you can stretch every bottle or tube a little further. So let's talk about what I picked up. This here is the FENDGA BD183K airbrush kit. It is considered a low to mid-range model. It is not a big brand name like Iwata, Badger, or Sparmac. Those are well known in the airbrush world, but this one caught my eye because of the features and the great reviews. This kit comes with 3 needles, and I'll be using the 0.5mm to get me started. Being that tempera runs a bit thicker, I might need the 0.8 needle. We'll see. For a beginner or hobbyist, this airbrush should do more than enough. Now, to put this in perspective, mid-range airbrushes usually cost around $120 to $250. High-end ones start at $250 and go up from there very quickly. So my FENDGA at this low or mid-range price fits right into my reality. Practical, affordable, and versatile. I think I ended up paying like $75 for the whole kit. As with many things, there's a bit of a learning curve. The setup, the tweaking of parts, and of course the maintenance. You will need to learn to take it apart for a good cleaning, so look forward to that. And best of all, this little FENDGA pairs perfectly with my existing compressor.
This is my Stanley 1.5 horsepower 6-liter compressor. It is loud, 97 decibels, but it does the job. It has a pressure control valve so I can fine-tune the airflow. It is small, compact, and I use it exclusively with my brad nailer. If it has enough PSIs for that, I'm thinking it should work well for my airbrushing needs. Finally, you might want to buy some attachments to fit the hose to your compressor. I ran into this issue, but I was able to find a quick adapter locally, not big deal. I think I paid like $2 or so. My compressor is not quiet. Not at all. But I work in my garage, wear ear protection anyway, and let's be honest, I'm not going to be painting full time. just enough for engraving prep or a few projects. If you don't have a compressor, I saw quite a few cheaper alternatives to the airbrush I bought. I saw quite a few compressor-less, if that's a word, and battery operated. From what I learned, these are not ideal for much, but you might get away with it if all you want to do is apply a primer or a base coat, which for what we're doing today, it might not be bad at all. Plus, when they break, they will break, you can buy 3 or 4 replacement units and still remain under the $75 that I paid for my unit. So let's get the glass ready.
I'm using a simple square glass piece for flat size. You've seen them for a couple of videos now, so I should have bought stock. I saw a few pros mix their water and paint combo directly in the airbrush cup. I add a bit of water first, then the tempera. I even learned that if you hold the tip of the airbrush and pull the trigger ever so slightly, the air will help you mix the paint. Pretty cool. Now, I also tried mixing it in this little square bottle. It worked well, but I had a hard time seeing what I was doing, and also a lot of paint was left in the bottle that never made it to the cup. Still, I tested, and then just went for something easier. I had marked a bunch of smaller glasses for a previous video, and this little guy was perfect for what I needed. Anyway, they have multiple uses around here. The main thing when mixing tempera paint for your airbrush is that you take your time and mix it very well. You want a smooth, runny consistency that runs easy on the sides of the cup. If it's running too slow, you need a little more water. If it's too fast, well, you overdid it with the water. I use a brush to do the mixing, but I think you can use pretty much anything as long as it's clean and it fits. It's all just the same. Tempera is thicker than the paint that folks actually recommend for spray painting with an airbrush. So we have to mix it very, very well because we don't want to clog anything. Before I go near the glass, I'll test the spray with just water. I want to get the feel of the airbrush, get the spraying amount just right, adjusting the trigger and the back stopper until I get a fine, even mist. I tested it on paper, and I also used a different color because I didn't want to waste my black paint. The key here is a thin, even coat. Again, the recurrent theme here in my garage is this is easier said than done. I'm very new to this airbrush and to the whole process, as you can see. And I'm also very eager and want to get on with the hardest parts of the challenge. That will often result in mistakes accompanied by a big mess. You will see the paint running down the side of the glass. I was in panic mode. I wish I could say this was all planned for a wow effect or staged for a learning opportunity here, but nope. That was just me. Live. True mistakes. But I'm loving it though. I can totally see potential here though. Tempera is cheap, and I can also count on it being very easy to clean. I will just wipe off the messy spraying and we'll try again. Tempera is very forgiving. If I mess up, I can wash it off in seconds. A simple wet wipe will do too.
I think this is the last bag of wet wipes I'm allowed to take from the house. If you want to help me build my own baby wipe stash, please consider joining me on Patreon. I'm uploading behind the scene clips, sharing what's going on in the shop, and from time to time, I might share a nameless rant. People there are awesome and make videos like this possible. Thank you very much.
I will look for a technique that will yield an even coating and less mess to deal with. It's just a matter of time. You gotta get used to it. Alrighty, let's try again. Some people go with 3 or 4 coats. I'll start with 2 and see how it looks. After the first coat is on, I dry it with a heat gun. This works very well. It's very fast because also the coats are super thin. And watch out as the glass heats up pretty quickly. Let it cool before you touch it. Don't ask me how I know. And don't do this on a plastic surface or anything that could melt. Once it is dry, I apply the second coat. At this point, I'm starting to see a little bit of a light at the end of that tunnel. I think this might work actually. The dry paint looks very nice and even, at least the ones that I had to redo. I'm going to keep the other ones, the ones that I messed up, just as they are, to see how they react to the testing. Anyway, we're ready for that testing. For the material test, I'm using my standard grid, 6mm stars, power level from 50 to 90, and speed 100 to 300. These are the same numbers I used in the previous tests with the professional spray and the brush applied tempera. I'll set the glass flat on the laser bed without the honeycomb to gain that extra clearance and get engraving. Because I don't have my laser fixed to the table, you will see a lot of rock in here. Well, this caused a bit of a problem with the final engraving. It's not a huge deal right now, but I will not be using that little sheet of ply right under the glass. I think it's a bit too small for the glass, and that didn't help. Anyway, I will use my precious wet wipes, and you will see that it does a pretty good job at removing the tempera. I do have a sink in the garage, but this is so much easier and very reliable too. The tempera just comes off with almost no effort. Now, depending on how heavy your coat was, you might have some residue left, but nothing that a bit of soap and warm water can handle. For stubborn areas, rubbing alcohol helps a lot. Don't worry if your sink looks a little messy. The tempera will come off very easily from there too. Right away I notice sharper lines, there are some spots missing or cooked a little too much. Compared to the brush applied version, the improvement is very clear. Let's try a couple more engravings. I'm using some of the same settings as before. They seem to work very well, and they also show nice on this new test. Alright, because we are in the season, I used this graphic before, and I do think I got better results, but it is due to the settings I used. I did 74 power on this one and 200 speed. It didn't react all that well to the settings and to the tempera, but we will see it better once it cleans up. Alright, another crowd pleaser here. Grant me the coffee. I'm using 70 power, 230 speed, and 180 LPC. That's lines per centimeter. I like testing with this graphic as it combines a number of fonts, different line thickness, and graphics. Just engraving it looks awesome. This one is about 6 centimeters by 4. This one should take about 6 minutes to engrave. Again, we won't know exactly how it turned out until we wash that tempera off. Next, we will do a favorite of mine. You knew it was coming. Again, that logo looks pretty good to me. For the settings, I went with the same I used for the coffee one. 70 power, 230 speed with that 180 LPC. I'm a little nervous here with all those flakes showing up. Perhaps it was too much power. Again, we'll see later on.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. The jar made me say it. Alright, enough testing.
All right. So we came indoors just because it was getting a little cold over there. Plus the lighting is a little better. Plus I have the above camera here, so let me turn it on. So we got these two glasses here. This one is the professional marking spray from last week. Okay. It looks a little funky because if you watch that video, this thing fell off my makeshift platform that I was using. It's not the brightest, right? It's a bit on the darker side, but it's very smooth. This is the one that I just did with the tempera. Forget about the flakes, those little darker spots. That's just me with the power settings and the speed. We need to work those out. The main test was to see that if I can get as smooth of an engraving as the professional marking spray. And side by side, yeah, wow, the brightness of the tempera, which has been its thing, you know, its shtick, still there. Another closer look right there. Look at the detail. We can work on the settings, so that's not a problem. But how smooth this is. So next we got the coffee. Again, same issues with the flaking, too much power. But the point is the smoothness of the engraving. No, it's pretty good. I think the edge that the Pro Spray might have is simply from the ease of application and the fact that it's pretty straightforward to get right. It's got a little bit of an edge, but that's it. This is also tempera. I'm not trying to make you do anything. Now, this is the one from this week. Pretty bad. I should probably go ahead and redo it. It's overburnt, but it's my fault. But the sentiment is the same. Go subscribe. But me being me, you know, I have to run another test just for good measure. So I will grab 2 more of my favorite beer mugs. I will prepare them with the tempera and the airbrush. I will use one for my testing and one for the final engraving. I will use the same engravings I used for the tempera versus Pro video. Check it out. I just really want to see them side by side. Same logos and same graphics, same glasses. So we'll see. For the Bear Beer, I'm using 80 power, 200 speed, and 180 LPC. That will not change. The LPC will not change. This job is supposed to take about 3.5 minutes. I can't see it all that well yet, but one thing is certain. It seems to have marked a very nice and smooth logo. All right, so next let's do what I wish was my logo, but it's not. On this one I will use 60 power and 250 speed. Let's see what happens. This job is going to take about 5 minutes. Wow, I mean, I like it. It looks good with the paint still covering it, but I think I want to try it one more time. I want to see what happens with a bit more power and slowing the speed down a little bit. Let's do 80 power and 200 speed. Same as the Bear Beer. I think it looks good and all, but I would rather tweak the previous one, the 60 power and 200 speed, a little more. Next, let's do one of my favorite graphics here, the cool lion. I'm using 60 for power, 250 for speed, and 180 LPC again. And last, the beer logo. I'm using 80 for power and 100 for speed.
I know I was a little bit all over the place with the settings. Don't forget, this is only based on my observations and experience so far, so keep in mind this is all very subjective, right? Also, not all glasses react the same and not all graphics and logos will burn the same either. Always make time for tweaking your settings and testing.
We're just back indoors, just the final reveal, right? Side by side. Let me just switch again to the above camera. So this one was the one from last week. This is the tempera. So you can see I used the same logos so that we can compare apples to apples. Now let's compare it to this week. Let's start with the Bear Beer. It's so smooth, it's not even funny. Boy, can I do side by side like this? You can see the lines on the other one. This one you can't. And the detail on the letters is much better. This from last week. This is the one from this week. Remember, then I changed the settings just to try, and I went with this one. You can see a bit of overburning there. So this one is the one that I would work with if I were to be tweaking the settings a little more. But I tell you, I mean, it's just to the touch, I cannot even feel it. Then I tweak things a little more. This one came out very good compared to the one from last week, right? It's a little bigger, this one here, but spotty and so on. This one is just very smooth. And of course, the cool guy here, side by side. Both tempera, one with the brush, the other one with the airbrush. Totally worth it. Now, regardless of the overburning or flaking, I think the spraying of the tempera brings this marking thing to a whole new level though. Of course, you're gonna have to tweak the settings. I would too, of course, if I was selling these glasses. Now, how do they do against the Pro marking spray? So this is the Bear from the Pro marking spray. It also had issues. But what I'm about is the smoothness of it, because I can work with those flakes. I cannot make it more smooth with a laser. And this is the one from the, today's from the tempera. Very smooth. Tempera again from today. Pro marking spray from last week. So this one is the one from today. This one is the one from last week. But I'm telling you, not too far. And again, this is the Pro Lion from last week. And this is my Lion from this week. Side by side, I tell you, the tempera is just so good, so smooth. Totally recommended. Yeah, well, the beer logos, this one is a little bigger here. Again, this one is the one from last week. This one is the Pro marking spray here. And this one is the tempera with airbrush. Almost no issues. I can't really say that I see issues though. From where I stand, the Pro spray and the tempera spray by airbrush, they're very close. The smoothness of the engraving, the consistency, the lines, it all improved. So it's just a matter of tweaking your settings there a little bit. So in my humble opinion, this airbrush really works. What do you think? I mean, I like them both, but again, the price. Of course, you got to add up the price of the airbrush and the compressor and all that stuff. But if you go for a cheaper one, I see no reason not to expect pretty good results. But you're going to have to test and let me know. The airbrush gave me control once I stopped messing around and got the hang of it. It used very little paint and produced beautiful, even coatings. Overall, this was a great experience. Airbrushing, another skill to keep working on and add to the old resume.
So was it worth it? For me, yes, 100%. Mainly because I'm able to get such a smooth markings, very close to the ones I was getting with the Pro Marking Spray. Also, being that I already had the compressor and was super curious to try it, this is a major win for my shop. If you have to buy both the airbrush and the compressor, well, that initial cost might not make sense unless this is your main business or you plan to use it often. You can get away with the cheaper options and avoid the compressor altogether within battery-operated units. And when that airbrush breaks, you can buy another one and another one without thinking about it. You know, other than the price of the tempera, I was pleasantly surprised by how little paint this FENDGA airbrush used. A single 12-ounce tube of tempera can last for dozens of glasses for literally $2–3. I was really looking forward to trying this airbrush and it didn't disappoint. But whether it is worth it or not, it comes down to what you value more, cost or convenience. If you have tried airbrushing your glasses or any other surface, let me know down in the comments. What's your setup? Do you have a favorite airbrush brand? Did you go big on the spending or went for the cheaper option? Or maybe you have found another clever way to coat glasses evenly. I would really love to hear your take though. And before we go, this isn't the end of the story, because the next challenge for this airbrush is acrylic paint. Can it compete with the undisputed king of my garage, the humble spray can of acrylic paint? I will set up a couple of canvases and prepare one with my usual method, a bunch of cans of spray paint, and the other one I will prepare with the airbrush. I will then do a couple of test engravings and reveal a final engraving on canvas for your pleasure and amusement. All this will be messed up, mistakes fully in the open, and documented in an upcoming video, which, if it's ready, it will be right here. If not, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep having fun while at it. I'll see you on the next one. So long.